Welcome to the CAD Office Training Guide series for FDOTConnect. I am Todd Holt, CAD Applications Training Coordinator. Today I will be going through the Roadway Design Existing Modeling Guide. In this series of videos, I will take you step by step through each exercise from the guide. Today we will start with Chapter 1, Part 1 of the guide, Modeling Existing Features. This guide will go over the fundamentals of creating a 3D model for existing features, to include hard surfaces such as asphalt, concrete, sidewalks, curbs, utilities, drainage structures, and the soil boring. Participants will be introduced to the Bentley Open Roads Designer Connect Edition, the Open Roads technology tools for design and modeling, specifically for Florida Department of Transportation projects using the FDOTConnect workspace. Let's begin. Topics covered for the Part 1 series of Chapter 1. We will create an MODLRD for existing features. We'll create shapes using the Existing Features tool. We'll create existing feature terrains externally. We'll create a 3D terrain model boundary by active profile and clip terrains with a terrain. Example, medians and the traffic separators. Let's begin with Chapter 1. This chapter will introduce the Open Roads technology tools to the viewing existing terrain and creating 3D existing features in design models in FDOTConnect. The existing features tool, when we use that, will bring up features or add features from Table 1.1 of the guide. The existing terrain we'll click the terrain in each shape individually, running through the exercises. So this Table 1.1 is the levels that the existing features tool will bring in. Exercise 1.1, create and set up the MODLRD file. In this exercise, the MODLRD, with an optional modifier of existing features, will be created using the Create File tool found in the FDOT tab with a ribbon, and Create Existing Features tool will be used to reference the SURVRD file, which contains the existing survey. To start ORD, we'll double-click on the FDOTConnect folder on the desktop and double-click on the FDOTConnect Open Roads Design. We'll then navigate to our current project 220495 and bring up the underbar CE or underbar blank file.dgn. From the underbar blank file.dgn, we'll click on the FDOT tab and then go to the Actions group of the ribbon and click on the Create File. In the Create File dialog, we'll set the discipline to Roadway. The file group will be Roadway Design Files, and we'll click the MODLRD file. This is the file used for reading from the description for 3D modeling for both existing and proposed. So we'll set the model file as the base file name. The modifier or option that's optional, we'll use that to be underbar existing features to tell us what the file will be used for. So we'll use a modifier that's optional to tell us what the base file name is going to be used for. In this case, we're going to model existing features in the MODLRD. We'll set the county to color. That'll set our coordinate system. From here, we will create and open the file. Once in the file, we can close the Create File dialog. Step 5. From the FDOT tab on the ribbon, navigate to the Roadway group and select the Create Existing Features icon. So we'll go to the Open Roads Modeling Workflow. The FDOT tab will find the Roadway group and click on the Existing Features. This will prompt us that this tool is going to attach a survey file. We'll click OK. It'll take us out to our project or work set, the 220495. 55201 under bar CE. Take us to the survey folder within the work set. We'll select the ServRD 01. Open. It will attach the ServRD and bring up and launch the FDOT Features tool. What it's doing in the background is bringing in or attaching the survey reference and then turning levels off for existing utilities or pavement that we saw from the list at the start of the chapter. So upon completion of clicking on the FDOT Existing Features tool, it's attaching the survey reference. It's then bringing these levels and making them active, copying those into the file, and then it will turn these levels off in the reference of the ServRD. And this is table 1.1 from the guide. So the FDOT Features tool will be used to assist in closing the areas and creating the necessary shapes for the existing features to be modeled. The tool contains a drop-down menu and 3 tool icons. The drop-down menu allows the selection of the active existing feature. Levels are turned on and off to help isolate the areas where the shapes are needed in order to create continuous shapes around the existing features. Miscellaneous lines are drawn in the file at the various locations. The first icon, Place Feature Lines. So our drop down is here. Our feature lines activates the Place Feature Line tool. The second and third icons are used to create shapes either by the flood method or by selecting elements to trace. So we have our feature line tool here, and the flood option to create shapes or to trace shapes with these tools. So on the FDOT feature dialog, select a pavement from the drop-down list. So we'll select the feature, we'll go to pavement, and we'll notice in the blank space in the file, it's going to isolate the pavement existing line. So if I click on the Home tab, you'll notice when I select the pavement, it's going to set my level. And now we can draw lines. So we're going to click on the Place Feature Line. And then we'll start closing in some of our shapes. So I'll place a line we can snap or we can drop over. I like to snap to be more precise. So I'm going to snap here and snap here. And then zoom into the corner. And I want to separate the existing 61 from the existing US 98, the baseline. So I'm going to go ahead and snap to this and then snap to that. That's going to isolate those. I'll close off a little shape. I'm just going to focus for this little area to show the tools, but you would complete this process throughout the whole project for the existing features. So I'll snap to here so we have a little area. And then I'm going to zoom into the start and close these shapes too by snapping on the US 98. So I want to go in and close the shapes and create shapes. Or close off the shapes before I actually create the shapes. So let me zoom into the lines. So it looks like we have that in there. So that's creating or placing the feature lines to close the shapes. In the examples before, it's showing us we don't have to get quite, but we could close more shapes. We could put a line here. We could close it out. That's up to you how you want to label these or close all your shapes. But just for the design purposes, I'm just going to close a few shapes on this area. So once we have all the shapes closed, we'll go and pick on the flood method. And what that's going to do is allow us to create shapes, a closed shape from the shapes that we've closed here. The tolerance may be needed to be adjusted. I believe by default it's set to 0.05. I can set that to 0.1. or 0.5 or 1, whatever tolerance I need to set. So once I have this set, click on that. It's as simple or as easy as data point, left click inside the shape. You'll see that it's outlining the shapes, and then data point to accept it. So let's repeat that for the other shapes or the closed shapes that we have. So let me do that for my median shape. So left click data point inside the shape. Oh, I have to go back to the tool and activate it. So left point data click, accept, and then left click data point, accept, and left click data point for my US 98 and accept that. And I'll go back into my medians and left click data point, and I'll left click a data point in my median there for the traffic separator and this right turn island, or the turn island here. So I've created my shapes. We would repeat that for our shoulders. So let me switch to another shoulder or a feature. So I'm going to pick shoulders just to show you some of this. So let me zoom back into this area. I'm going to pick on my lines. And for this, I want to close off this feature here and then zoom into the start and pick a feature. So we're closing shapes, or closing the lines, and then creating shapes from those closings. We would go throughout the project and create it. It's a little tedious, but it'd be very nice and make the existing features model that much easier when we cut cross sections, so we can see and get the quantities from there. So let me zoom into this little area here, and I'll close the shape for my there, and then let me close a shape down here. And we'll repeat that process to create some of the shoulder shapes. We would do that for our driveways and sidewalks we had, or miscellaneous concretes. So again, we pick the tool, or we have the FDOT features tool. We'll pick the feature. We'll close the shape using the place feature line, and then we'll create the shapes either by the flood or the continuous method. So I have my shoulder shapes, or closed shapes for my shoulders. I'm going to go in and click the flood method so I can actually create the shape. We'll show that it's outlining it, and left click data point. Come up here, do my other shape. So here's my north side of the road for the shoulder, and the data point to accept. And one more time, I'll do this side, left click, and zoom out, and zoom back in, and create my shapes. So I've created shapes for my pavement and shoulders. We would repeat this process for driveways or sidewalks, anything else that we have. So once we have all our shapes created, we want to make sure we close the tool before we move on to exercise 1.3 when we create the shapes, or creating the trains. And that's what we're going to move on now, is exercise 1.3. We're going to create existing feature trains using the external method. So once the shapes are created, those shapes can be used to create individual trains from the existing DTM. This is referred to as external clipping. In this exercise, the Open Road Simple Tool clip trains will be used to create the train for pavement, shoulders, driveways, and turnouts. In Table 1.3 below, the FDOTConnect workspace has feature definitions for the train elements for existing features. So let me bring the guide over. So in Table 1.3 from the guide, these are the feature definitions that we'll see from our drop-down list. We have one set for driveways, pavement, paved shoulders, sidewalk, and traffic separators. That'll give the feature names over on the left. So we're ready to create our features. We're in the MOD LRD existing features 01. If you weren't, jump back into it. We're going to see that our active level is set to the pavement asphalt EP. So we'll go into our level display. We'll turn our active level to the pavement. We're going to turn off everything else in this file except for the active pavement, or the active level, which is pavement asphalt EP. So we have that. So we're going to create our shapes, our terrains for the pavement asphalt. To do that, we're going to switch from the Home tab and switch to the Terrain tab. We're going to go to the Create Group and then go to the Additional Methods and click Create Clipped Terrain Model. So if we click on that, that's going to bring up our dialog. And this is where we're going to set our feature definition. If we click on this, we'll see that we have our terrain model folder and then the different features or feature definitions for existing. So we have our driveway, paved shoulder, pavement, sidewalk, and traffic separator. In this case, we're going to pick the DTM existing pavement. We're going to set the clipping method to external. Make sure we do that. If we click in the reference terrain model and click that, we don't have a terrain. We can start seeing the terrains if we make it active. If not, if there's no active terrain, we're going to have to select the terrain that we want to be able to clip from. So there's two options to do that. So I'll go through the one process and then I'll set it active to show what we have. But the main method on this is make sure your method for right now is set to external. Okay, so we'll set our feature definition to DTM existing pavement. That will give us a name of existing feature pavement. And we're going to do this out of existing feature pavement. This will be a parent. I'll show you why I'm doing this later in the exercise. So let me tab out of that. So following the tool, it's asking us to locate the reference terrain model. That's going to be our green boundary. So I'll select that. We'll notice after we select it, we have a reference terrain model that pops in or comes into the dialog. So existing ground. And then it's asking us to locate the clipping element. That's the shapes that we had. So let me go and pick for the existing 61. But before I do that, let me change the name to be more specific so I know what's going on. So this is going to be the EX existing 61 60 underbar parent, and then I'll tab. So locate the clipping element. I want to select the clipping shape that I had for, or the outline for the existing 61. So I'll select that. I don't want to do any more. I have to do these one at a time because if I do more than one, it's going to switch my clipping method. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to right click to reset, and then it's left click data points to work through the tool. So I'll left click data point once, I'll left click data point twice, and then left click data point one more time for the clipping method. And I'll see after I do that, I will see my shape inside there. Sometimes it'll be a clean shape like this. Sometimes it won't. If there's external triangles outside of the shape, there's a method in exercise 1.4 to add an active profile and then add a reference or a feature management and add a boundary or a clip boundary in that. I'll have to do that in another video because I'm not getting those features right now. So we have our existing 61. Let's do the same thing for our parent for the US 98. So I'm going to leave the feature definition to DTM existing pavement, but this time my feature name is going to be US 98 And I'll make this a parent as well. I'll select or locate my reference terrain model. That would be existing ground, and then I'll select my shape. I'll then right-click to reset, and then left-click data point 3 times to work through the tool for the horizontal offset and vertical offset. Left-click data point, and then for the clipping method, and left-click data point. So I have those in there. So there's my 2 shapes. I would do that for any other shapes for the external method. So like I said, exercise 1.4 is creating a 3D terrain model boundary by active profile. Right now we don't have any methods to do that, so I'm going to skip that exercise for right now. I'll add that in on another exercise, or you can just follow along from the guide. So moving on to exercise 1.5. We're going to clip terrains using the internal method. Now, before we do that, let's go to the Explorer and open that. I want to switch to the Open Roads Model tab and then go into the file that we're in, which is MODLRD Existing Features 02. Go under the terrain model. It'll tell us the feature definition that we're using, which is DTM Existing. And then if I break that down, it's going to tell me, or break it down to the name of the feature. And if I break these down or show the hierarchy, the DTM Existing Pavement feature, we created an existing feature pavement, the EX61 parent. This is dependent on the existing ground, and that's going to be key in the following steps. So we have one for existing 61, and then one for the existing pavement for US 98, because we're going to create more clips that are going to be dependent on these. In previous exercises, we always deleted the parent or deleted the clip. We don't want to do that, because if we delete the parent clip, then we can't update, or we don't have a parent-child relationship between the new clip that we have. So we're going to turn off triangles on the parent after we create our child. So let's do that now in this exercise. So I will switch the clipping method to internal, because I want to clip internally from this terrain. And then this will be locate the reference terrain model. We can either do that from the list, and we'll notice that we have 3 now. So we have our existing ground, plus we have the 2 that we've created. So for this example, I'm going to do the existing feature pavement EX61, the parent. So that would be this one. If I didn't select it from the list, I could just click on that. And now I'm going to locate the clipping elements. So I'm going to zoom in here because I want to click on the clipping elements that we made for the medians. So there's 1, and then the other one is right here. That's 2. I don't have any more, but I'm going to put the name. This is going to be underbar. This is Exisitng61, and this will be my main. So this is the main, or the main terrain that I'm going to use. Once I have that, I've located my clipping elements, I've located my terrain. I'm going to right click to reset, and then left click data point, working through the tool again. And this time we do want internal. So it may not look like we did anything, but we did. So we've created another terrain that's going to exclude these shapes. And in order to show that, we'll go back to the Explorer, and we'll notice in our Open Roads Model tab, our Terrain Models group, for the DTM existing feature, we have one more feature that we just created. That was our external pavement EX61 main. And if we navigate down, we'll know that this was created from the existing pavement parent, which was the parent was created from the existing ground. And the reason we're doing this, we're creating a parent-child relationship between the existing ground is the main or the grandparent. The existing feature pavement EX is the parent, and our existing feature pavement EX main is a child, or we could have named that child. So we have our grandparent and then parent and child. So we have a relationship between these features, or these feature names. So if we get a survey file that gets updated and we reattach it, we don't have to recreate our shapes. We can just update from source in the survey. So if we right click, we have properties to update. And we can update these survey features and update the terrain so that terrain will automatically update. But what we want to do is we'll come to the parent and right click on that. Oh, we'll go down so we go to the feature. We want to come to the parent and right click. I want to see the properties, which I believe they're up. So I do Control I to bring up the properties. So I want to come over to the properties here on the parent. So the existing feature pavement EX61 parent, I want to turn those triangles off. And by doing that, I'm not seeing the triangles anymore. The shape is still there, but now you'll see that we have the clip that was dependent on it without the medians. And this is what we wanted here. So let's do that again for the US 98, the base. So I will have, the reference is going to be the US 98 parent. This will be my underbar US 98, and this time I'll do the main or a child, and then tab, and then I'll locate my external or my shapes from the medians. So let me select 1, and then 2, and 3. So once I have those selected, I will right click to reset, and then left click to data point for the horizontal, vertical, and internal. So I've created another shape. Let's go back to Explorer. Know that we have our US 98 child. So I want to go to, and the child, its parent is the US 98 parent, which the US 98 parent was created from existing ground. So we have a relationship between the existing ground and the parent and the child. We want to come to the feature definition that we use for the parent for US 98. We'll go to the properties, and again we'll turn off the triangles. And when we do that, see our shapes will clear out. If we're turning the triangles off, we want to see the child. The child is what we're going to build the terrains from, or the surface templates. So again, we're doing this to create a parent-child relationship. So if the survey changes, our features change. We could do the same thing for our shoulders and do our shoulder features. For the shapes, we would isolate, to turn our shoulders on. When we turn on my level display, we can turn off. We can turn on the shoulders, turn off the shoulders, or the pavement asphalt. So we just have our shapes, and then we would come back and do our shapes for that. So let me do a couple of those. So again, I'm going to go to the existing ground, switch my method to external. This time I'm going to change the feature definition to the DTM existing paved shoulder. So that's going to be the name. I would then put my name to be more specific to what I'm doing in the names. I'm going to just come through and start locating my shapes. So there's one, right click, data point, and then left click. And we'll see the shoulders. So locate the terrain, locate the shape, right click to reset, and then left click data point to work through. That's going to create the shoulders. We do that one more time. Locate the terrain, then locate the shape, right click and reset, and then data point through. So I would do that for my main pavement, my shoulders, and any driveways that I have in there. Thank you for joining me today for the CAD Office series for FDOTConnect. This was Chapter 1, Part 1 from the Roadway Design Existing Modeling Guide. The next will be Chapter 1, Part 2, where we'll finish going through the exercises of the guide.